So everything that I'm most afraid of and most upset about is happening in 1 week.
Is in the week coming up?
Yeah. Just pause for a minute. I was very stoic. I didn't let on that everything was falling apart for me.
Do you think it's acceptable for your mum to be abusive towards you? This is In Therapy with Alex Howard, a first of its kind series that places you directly in the therapy room. My name is Alex Howard, and it is my hope that by bringing you on the journey with us, you too can learn the tools to transform your life. This series, we're following Hayley, whose traumatic upbringing has resulted in severe depression and anxiety, as well as debilitating obsessive compulsive disorder. Hayley has come to In Therapy because she's decided enough is enough and wants to live the rest of her life free from the constraints of the past. So you grew up to believe that your mum is more important than you, and you became this person because that was the way you survived. The problem is, that's not who you truly are. It's something you got really fucking good at doing. But the bit that I'm really interested in is who you are that isn't that. Join us each week as we follow every step of Hayley's journey, both in and outside of the therapy room. As well as the tools I give Hayley in the sessions, I'll also be sharing weekly top tips so you can begin to unlock your true potential. This is In Therapy. This week, Oliver and Jeremiah are visiting Hayley in Welwyn Garden City, just outside London.
How about if we perch somewhere around here? One of the things we talked about in the session was Alex was asking you about what your relationship with anger is.
Yeah.
And you sort of use the term, you call it your kind of like a deep sorrow rather than an anger.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can just say a little bit about that.
Yeah. I don't feel angry. I feel deep sorrow. And it's a sadness that I can't make her world right. So that stops her pain, which stops her shouting at me. And it is deep sorrow. And I've looked at this again and again and again, and I thought, is there anger there? Am I repressing anger? Have I skipped out anger? Do I feel any anger? And I just don't. Okay. And I just don't. And it's really interesting. I'm trying to separate myself from my mum like a separate entity, because everything she's going through, I feel as well. Mm-hmm. And like, so I'm feeling everything. And it's like, how do I separate myself? I don't see myself as separate to her. So that's an interesting one.
Do you believe that's something that can change?
No, not really. I will always feel everything my mum and dad go through. I don't see myself as separate from them, which is.
But obviously there will be some time in the future when they won't be here.
Yeah.
So what happens then?
Yeah. You just carry parts of the personality, don't you? I kind of like, oh, there's a big rat behind you. There really is. I swear. Oh, look at me on my mum's life. Honestly, Oliver.
That's not a rat.
I'm not looking at that.
That's a bird.
Is it?
That's a bird.
You're not going to believe that any of them were rats now.
Genuinely, I just think you're making it up.
Is that a bird? With the others rats?
That's 100% a bird.
It's the day of Hayley's 6th session with me. And as a surprise for Oliver and Jeremiah, Hayley has produced some documentary footage of her own.
Oh, I come bearing evidence.
Oh, do you?
I do.
Oh, interesting.
You ready?
I'm very ready.
1 second.
Yeah.
Rats. Seriously, watch it again. Did you see it?
I don't know what you're talking about now. I can't see it.
Look. Again, watch. Right.
That could have been anywhere. That could have been any rat.
And watch him. He's hard to see, but he's running down there. Watch again. Can you actually see it?
I can see him.
Yeah.
I can see him. You needed to prove that, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Because it's about issues about not being believed, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
really funny, but it does come from childhood.
Even though we said, I do believe you.
I know.
I do believe you.
It is funny.
You were probably out there like David Attenborough
I was
until
there.
God knows what time.
I won't leave it. But I'm sorry. And I kind of know you believe me. But then I thought, well, do you think I was mistaken because it was a bird? But he was.
I mean, there was a bird. There was a bird. But I did believe you that
Yeah.
there was a rat as well. But
Yeah. But
now you've got the evidence.
Being Hayley's sixth session, we're starting to get to the deeper elements of what is going on for her. At the start of working with someone therapeutically, it's really important to build a deep understanding of what is going on for them, along with a sense of trust and safety in our relationship. And it is this that allows us to get to the real heart of what is happening. Well, Hayley, it's lovely to see you.
sorry, I'm just rearranging.
Yeah, you're fine. It's lovely to see you. I'm disappointed you haven't brought rats into the studio.
I know.
But there we are.
I know.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I saw like Oliver and Jeremiah yesterday, and I was all full of bravado and everything. Like, yeah, I can do this and all this. And I sort of woke up a little bit broken today, and a little bit afraid and worried and anxious. And I guess it shows it's not linear, is it? Growth, it's all over the place. And so I woke up full of problems this morning, and so I'm making steps forward and steps back.
Yeah.
So I've got a very, very, very times 10 challenging week this week. So everything that I'm most afraid of and most upset about is happening in 1 week.
Is in the week coming up.
Yeah. And I'm sort of running on empty. So I've just got to get through this week, but it is a rubbish week.
What's happening this week?
Yeah, so I've got
your mum's surgery, is it? This
yeah,
week?
it's mum's surgery. Just pause for a minute. Yeah. I feel really guilty because I sit here slagging them off, and I really love it.
You can love someone and you can also see that the problems. The two things aren't mutually exclusive.
She does the best she can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all do, but that doesn't mean there aren't things that have to change.
Yeah. She's got surgery, and I've sort of had to be with her for a lot of appointments for the last couple of days. And it's quite complicated what is sort of leading up to the surgery. Some of the procedures she's got to do with MRSA and COVID and stuff, and her medication because she's on ultra blood thinners and stuff. So that sort of taps into my feeling hyper responsible, just assisting her with it because she's old and it's complicated, and that sort of triggers my OCD. If I don't get this right, she's going to die. So everything's pushing my buttons.
Yeah.
So it's very stressful, and I'm empty anyway. I'm empty and extremely tired. And then, so that's coming up, and it is that sort of risk because she's going under anaesthetic and she's got stage 3 kidney, and so there's that risk. And then I've got to go in a MRI scanner again tomorrow for my knee, and that's kind of like. Yeah, I'm used to panic attacks and I'm expecting them. I've been in scanners and I always get them, and it's really horrible. And so I'm just going to have to just put up with it. So that's just another thing that's a pain. And then I've got to go to the doctors after, which I hate doing because I hate taking their time up. But I do need to ask them about some things. So that always taps into you're wasting people's time, you don't deserve it. That makes me really anxious. And it taps into the health anxiety. Then we've got my mum's surgery, and then my dad's got complications with his diabetes, so I've got to do my dad's on the Monday after. So it is about looking after my parents, and there's health anxiety, and all three of us have got appointments and medical things. But on the plus side, this is normal day-to-day life, isn't it? And you don't get exemption from it. You just got to do it.
It's a lot in 1 week, though.
Yeah, because it pushes every button. But I'm okay because up until this point, I can tell I'm running on no sleep because I can't sleep because of it. So,
When you say no sleep, how much sleep do you get a night?
2 hours, very most, because I'm worrying about it. But I've been employing some techniques. So what I've been doing is stopping the catastrophizing and the snowball thinking. So I'm getting here and I normally end up down here, at my mum's funeral when she hasn't even died yet. So I'm saying stop to that. Let's stop this. This has not happened yet. This is snowball thinking, catastrophizing, stop it. And I'm also doing the stay in the present. Okay, so I'm already projecting each day ahead. So I've been like, okay, stop it. This is today. You climb through today and we'll do tomorrow when tomorrow comes. So I'm bringing myself back to the present, stopping the catastrophizing. The thing about I don't feel like I deserve the hospital and the doctor's appointments, I'm sort of saying that's the inner critic saying you don't deserve it, so we've got to stop that. I'm as valid as anyone else and I'll go in and apologise for being there. So every time I get a thought, it's been like whack-a-mole, seriously.
Yeah.
It's just
sounds like you're working hard in terms of deploying the techniques.
Yeah. Honestly, every thought that comes, I'm bringing a technique in and I'm smacking it with it. I'm doing the meditation. So I'm just hitting everything that comes, and I'm also being really gentle with myself, and I'm also normalising it. I'm saying any person in my situation would feel anxiety over an older person that they love going for surgery. So I'm trying to normalise it and not give myself a hard time. So yeah, I've been pulling techniques in. I've been working on some boundaries.
Okay. Tell me about these boundaries.
Okay, let's go for the boundaries. Hang on a minute. It's a spotlight.
Literally, spotlight.
I know. So, took my mum to the doctors and she started sort of getting upset and shouting and stuff. So I just picked myself up and just sat the other side of the doctors and just sat there. And then when we were ready to go in, we went together. So I just actively walked away. I didn't engage. I just sort of went, picked myself up and stepped out of the boxing ring. And then, so that kind of worked. And then
what helped you do that? Because that's not something you would have done previously.
Never, no. Just coming here and thinking, you know what, I don't actually deserve this. I haven't slept all night worrying about you. I've made myself ill worrying about you. Every time I breathe in and breathe out, I'm worrying about you. I lay my life down for you and I'm getting this shit back. And I'm sat in a medical establishment, which, because I nearly died of a heart attack and I can die at any moment with another, it kind of winds me up a bit. I sit there grinning and brave it out, but it's really hard for me. And I don't really talk about how hard it is, but it is hard. It is triggering for me. So I thought, I'm doing my absolute best. I didn't tell her that. I didn't say I'm doing my best. I just thought to myself, I'm going to swear, fucking hell, I'm doing my best here, So I just sort of got up and calmly moved to the other side. But and that's okay. But I did answer her back as well, because she was having some blood taken. Sorry about my language. She was having some blood taken from her hand, and she was saying, "Shut swining up. You don't know what this feels like. You've never had it." And I just sort of, my mouth dropped out, and I was thinking, that's a bit unfair. I've had open heart surgery with people fighting for my life. Yeah. And I did say, that's a bit unfair, Mum. I've had a heart surgery. I was fully awake. I've had a cancer scare and operations that I haven't even ever told you about, Mum. I have had some stuff, and it was just like, she actually thought that I'd not had a blood taken. It's like, I had a heart attack. So it was like, it's just the sort of mentality of an inability to empathise with, so I answered back.
And how did it feel to be able to stand up for yourself?
The walking away felt better. The fighting back felt, shouldn't have said that.
So your inner critic gave you a hard time for it?
Yeah. But a nurse actually told her off as well, because she laid into me in front of the nurse, and she sort of turned around and she says, if you stop me having this operation with you opening your big mouth, I'll kill myself anyway. And the nurse just jumped in and said, your daughter's trying to look after you there. That's really... So she got told off, and then she phoned me up and actually apologised. My mum did.
So what does that tell you about what happens if your mum's given a good boundary?
It was the other nurse stepping in.
Sure, no, I understand.
Yeah.
You see, part of this, if I put this in a sense, oversimplistic terms, My sense of what happened is you, because of your mum's complexities and issues, you were taught a lot of this from a very young age. So you grew up to believe that your mum is more important than you. You grew up to believe that it's your fault if your mum is suffering. You grew up to believe that without your mum, you wouldn't be okay. Now, I don't think any of those things are true, but that's what you were taught to believe from a very young age. And then what happens is we just normalize, like that becomes the way that the world is seen. And of course, it's unsettling that you and I are having this conversation and we're starting to challenge all of this and we're starting to question, well, is that actually true? And is that how it's always going to be or how it always needs to be? But in a sense, through taking on all of these beliefs, you teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
So your mum taught you, and then you taught her that it was okay to do that. By that nurse stepping in a sense, then what's happened is someone's reset a bit of that boundary, and she's gone away and gone, oh, actually, oh, yeah, okay. We need to teach you, I say we, I mean you and I need to teach you to be able to do more of that.
Yeah.
To be able to and you getting up and walking away is a really healthy example of that. Of reteaching those boundaries. Because in a sense, it shows your mum, is your mum going to radically transform and become the way that we would want her to be? No. Can you shape a behavior, and can you start to establish boundaries where you teach her a different way of being with you? Yes, you can.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to sound ridiculous, but it feels like an easy thing to do for me because I kind of, that's it, I can do it.
Well, you've just shown you can do it.
Yeah. Because the consequence of that not happening is yeah.
So in this moment, as we're talking about it, do you think it's acceptable for your mum to be abusive towards you?
She allowed a bit of license this week if she's stressed. Because say you're looking at fight and flight and freeze, she fights. I flee or, she fights. So if in somebody that's really highly anxious this week, maybe there's a bit of calm reassurance for this week.
I hear that. But as a more general principle, is it acceptable for your mum to be abusive towards you?
No.
How does it feel to say that?
That's right. I won't take it. I'll remove myself, and I'll know that it's okay, because I wouldn't treat, no matter what I've been through, there is no way I would even treat somebody I didn't like that. I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't.
It's an injustice.
It's not fair.
It's an injustice that you've been perpetuating by not saying no or by walking away.
I'm really glad to see Hayley beginning to put up and hold up boundaries where her mum is being abusive towards her. Considering where she was only a few weeks ago, this is a really big step. As we continue the conversation, it becomes clear that Hayley still feels an over sense of responsibility for her mum. She tells me that whenever her mum needs her, she rushes to her aid, even if she's hundreds of miles away or it's the middle of the night. On the surface, this behaviour might appear loving and caring. However, in reality, it's a continuation of the same coercive and manipulative relationship that Hayley's mother established when Hayley was a little girl. It's here that we pick the session back up.
So let me ask you, I'm asking you a tough question here. Is that an appropriate thing to ask a 5-year-old to do?
But she didn't ask me, I just assumed responsibility.
Is that a healthy thing to let a 5-year-old assume responsibility for?
But she perhaps didn't know I was doing it. She didn't know I was checking the house in the night and stuff. She didn't know I was holding the responsibility emotionally because I was very stoic. I didn't let on that everything was falling apart for me. So she didn't know.
What do you think you were trying to get through doing that at the time?
But I know what you're going to say. You're going to say a sense of safety and stuff, aren't you?
Why am I going to say that?
I don't think I was trying to get a sense of safety. I was trying. I probably did in a child's eyes, but
because I think you're a tough woman, and you've learned to deal with some really tough things, and you've got really strong in the process of doing it. Let's imagine a 5-year-old that's not you in that situation, and they are being turned into a carer, and they're being turned into the responsible party at 5 years old. And there, as a 5-year-old, the feeling for boundaries, the need for boundaries and safety and love are like oxygen and food and water.
Yeah.
Like they are 3 fundamental needs that we have. And you weren't getting those needs met. But you learned that if you became this person who assumed responsibility and cared for and predicted what might happen, then this child learnt that they're going to get those needs met.
Yeah, so you're sort of saying like an oxymoron of selfish empathy kind of thing.
I don't quite mean it as selfish empathy. I mean it as a survival instinct.
Yeah.
And you became this person because that was the way you survived.
Yeah.
The problem is that's not who you truly are. It's not all of who you truly are. It's something you got really fucking good at doing. And you've done for 46 years or whatever it may be. And you've done it so much that it feels like who you are. But the bit that I'm really interested in is who you are that isn't that.
Yeah.
When you think about a 5-year-old girl learning that the only way to survive is to assume responsibility for what's happening in her environment, how do you feel about her?
Till I've got no breath in my body, I'll always defend it.
Defend
My mum. Till there's nothing left, my dying words will be that.
But this isn't, actually in this moment, my intention is not making your mum right and wrong. My point is around the little girl. Because you can still love your mum and you can still feel empathy and sorrow for her and for her life. But that's actually not who we're talking about right now.
Yeah, sorry.
We're talking about the impact on the little girl. Because I see that you do feel some sadness for her.
No. Excuse me, sniffing.
You're allowed to sniff.
Got really strong fear responses even as a tiny kid. You look back and I can feel it now, that catastrophizing, like if she was 2 minutes late from work, and not like, she's dead. And you look now and you think, that's a strong fear response for such a little child. Yeah. And that straight away, she's definitely dead. Bang.
And the thing you've got to remember is for that 5-year-old girl, if mum's dead, she's dead.
Yeah.
Because she's dependent upon mum to survive. That's a real big...
But I don't remember thinking about me in that.
No, of course.
I just remember thinking about sorry for her.
Of course.
It didn't occur selfishly, oh, I'm dead. It's like, oh, she's dead. That's all that matters.
But what we're consciously aware of is not often what matters.
Okay.
It's all the other stuff that's happening beneath the surface. Like in this moment, you're breathing, your heart's beating, your body's controlling its temperature. All of these things are happening. You're not aware of them.
2 of them aren't very good for me. My heart's pretty naff. You're taking the mickey, aren't you?
I'll pick better examples next time. But you get my point, right? All these things are happening.
Your heart's beating okay, but mine's knackered. And my temperature's not very...
Well, it's 26.9 degrees in here, so it's pretty hot. But it's what you consciously remember. It doesn't mean that's what was actually going on. And there are certain things that are just hard and fast truths of psychological development.
Okay.
And one of them is that a child of 5 years old is dependent upon their caregivers for survival.
Yeah.
And death anxiety is a pretty intense anxiety. And when our fear is that the person taking care of us is unstable and unpredictable and could be dead at any moment, that is incredibly stressful and traumatic. And that is ultimately the origin of a lot of the OCD behaviors that you've developed, because you developed all of these ways to try and control the environment, to control this feeling.
Yeah.
Which is why, ultimately, to give you a sort of look behind the curtains of why I'm doing why we're going here today, is if we can change your relationship with that little girl, and we can help her feel safe, and we can have you learn to meet her needs, it's going to take away the charge of a lot of these OCD type anxiety patterns and behaviors. So that's why we're looking at it in the way that we are.
Okay.
In terms of the MRI tomorrow, let me give you a couple of quick tips. So the first thing, which you already know, but I want to make it more explicit, because you referenced it when you drove down here last time, and you drove rather than your husband driving, which is to think about anxiety or panic as just being like waves. Yeah. And if you put up a wall to the wave, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If you let the wave wash through you, it's like the wave of anxiety and panic might come, but you're not feeding it, you're not giving it your attention, it just sort of moves through. So it's almost going, okay, I'm having a panic attack right now. Okay. But if you cannot have panic about the panic, then the wave will just move through. So that's you know that, but I'm going to remind you of that. And then the second thing is, remember the importance of your breath. Because when we go into a wave of panic, we stop breathing. And then we stop breathing, we then put our body in physiological danger mode, because it knows if you stop breathing for more than about 5 to 6 minutes, you're going to be dead. You're going to be dead. So it automatically puts your body in a stress response. So if you can deliberately work on slowing your breath and deepening your breath and breathing through it, it will lower the overall intensity of what you're experiencing as well. Yeah. Cool. So to make this really simple, you don't want to have loads of things you're trying to remember. They're waves and breathe. Put another way, breathe through the waves. So that's your mantra. Breathe through the waves.
Cool. And I'm sort of trying to reframe how I do it, in as much that I kind of hope I get a panic attack, because if I do, it's like I'll get a chance to practice that, rather than, I hope I don't get one. I'll just, honestly, I'm quite looking forward to it, because I will always run towards a challenge. So it's like, good, whatever. You know,
the point, many 16, 17 years ago, I used to have very, very intense panic attacks. And the thing that I learned was, you can't have a panic attack if you're not afraid of a panic attack.
I know.
Because when you're no longer afraid, it's just an intense feeling that moves through your body, and then it's gone. But the point you're afraid of it is when you stop breathing, you contract, and then the wave gets bigger and bigger. So if you can find a place of acceptance and peace, it then changes the whole dynamic of it.
You can't bring one on, can you? No. I'm going to sit there tomorrow. I'm going to try and bring one on. I'm going to be like, go on then. That's good. Thank you. I will enjoy it.
Good. Very good. Very good. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm okay. Just sort of things to focus on this week. Survival.
Go gently. You've got a lot happening this week. Use the tools, use the stop process, work on the boundaries of your mum, and think about that little girl.
Okay.
Good. Thanks, Hayley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The foundations of how we relate to ourselves and those around us in our lives now is almost entirely established during childhood. To change the core of this, we have to work to heal that younger us and give them the boundaries, safety, and love that they needed. The good news is, as adults, we are no longer dependent upon others to do this for us, and we can learn to meet those needs for ourselves. Indeed, this is much of what therapeutic work is often about. Continue to follow Hayley's journey over the coming weeks as we release weekly episodes of her sessions with me. You can watch here on YouTube or listen to the episodes as a podcast. And to help support you in coming on the journey with us, I've created some materials to accompany the series.
Each week, there is a bonus video with me and a worksheet to bring the session to life for you. In this week's reflections, you can explore your relationship with your younger you, and I'll offer some simple ways to begin making more space for them. You can find these resources for free at intherapy.alexhoward.com. Here's what's coming up next week.
The hospital just phoned because my mum's gone in.
You've had a busy week. I've been wondering how you've been doing.
Just really abusive to me and Dad. They did the best they could.
They did the best they could, and you deserved more love than you received.
So how I was related to you when I was little is how I now relate to myself.